State of Christianity in the USA. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pamela Knight, and I am conducting a class survey on the history of global Christianity. In this video discussion, I will be presenting my findings on the current state of Christianity in the USA and exploring the idea of Christianity in modern day America. The United States is rich in Christian history, with this spread of Christianity dating back to the exploration age and continuing through the first and second great awakenings in the 1600s and 1900s respectively. George Whitefield is the future revivalist of the first great awakening in 1744. John Wesley organized the first annual conference of the Methodist lay preachers. The first Methodist church in the American colonies opened in New York in 1768. Jonathan Edwards was known as the first great American theologian and one of the founders of evangelicalism, and led the first revival movement and extended it. Asbury became the first superintendent and later Bishop of American Methodism. This period ended with a movement in the 18th century that produced an emotion of Christian friendship throughout the American settlements. In the 18th century, American colonists could look back at 100 years of Christian experience and look to churches from Christian denominations. The English Anglicans, Baptists, Congregationalists, and Quakers, Germans were Lutheran and Moravian, Scots were Presbyterian, and French and immigrants from Southern Europe were Catholic. In the Second Great Awakening, success of Baptist and Methodist Sunday school and the utopian communities. The movements led to fundamentalism and the increase of the African American church. There were theological shifts such as Methods and the FX. The increase of revivalism, moral movements, abolitionism, and individualism in religion is a way and idea about the history of the United States of America. The increase of the Baptists and the Methodists was early in the 17th century. The Baptists emerged an NT's reform movement by a radical dissent in Puritanism, separation, and a connection to baptism. The Reformation theology of Zwingli and John Calvin, the English Bible, had a deep desire for spiritual reform. The Baptists, Henry Jesse Williams and John Spilsbury, realized that they could do more together than they could separately. And that was a contribution baptizing missions to work in the local communities. In North America today, the increase of the Methodists, there were three important people: John and Charles Wesley and George Whitefield. The Wesley brothers were important relations to the Baptists, and Wesley's writings led in Scripture. There was a split between John and Charles Wesley and George Whitefield, but still a strong love between the three. While Whitefield passes at an early age and they were distressed. Their beginnings in Oxford, also the initial evangelical revival, occurred as a mark of their preaching to others. I have been studying church history and the idea of Christianity today in the USA. It is fascinating to see how Christianity has evolved and continues to shape our society. I believe we can learn from each other's religions and that we can benefit from studying them without compromising our individual religious beliefs. It is important to be open-minded and respectful of other faiths, even as we hold fast to our own traditions and beliefs. It is interesting to see how Christianity has changed to impact our society. There is a lot to gain from studying other religions and their practices while still holding on to our own beliefs. It is important to have an open mind and show respect for other faiths so that we can build a society that values diversity and promotes understanding. That by doing so, we create a more tolerant and understanding society, one that celebrates diversity and fosters mutual respect and understanding. Mark's message, Jesus once warns against temptation. Salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, how can you make it salty again? Mark 9:50, New International Version. Mark then proceeded through how Jesus used salt to illustrate three qualities that should be found in his people. Number one, we should remember God's faithfulness, just as salt, when used with a sacrifice, recall God's covenant with his people. Leviticus 2:13. Number two, we should be effective in the flavor of the world we live in, just as salt changes food flavor. See Matthew 5:13. Number three, we should counteract the moral decay in society, just as salt preserves food from decay. To be effective, salt needs to touch the food that needs it. Christians must not withdraw from the world, but engage with it wisely. When we lose the desire to salt the earth with the love and message of God, we become ineffective for him. Thank you.